Me that I did something bad in blasting those influences in your life and saying that those influences are really, really bad things, then I'm not the problem.
They are.
Exactly. And you know what? In this world, some people have to stand for right and wrong. And if that means that I'm going to have people upset with me, then sometimes I'm going to have people upset with me. That's just the way it is. I would rather have that than go home at night and think I sold my soul. That's a sick feeling when you know you did something wrong. That's a horrible feeling. Where you let a kid down. All right, 2n minus 5 is equal to 9. Now, we did a lot of these in 6th grade, a lot of these in 7th grade. I don't know if they do them in 5th grade, but I know they do them in 6th grade. And they do much more complicated ones in 5th grade. Here's the deal. Basic equation, nothing too complicated. We're not going to test you much on it now, but we're going to head into a whole chapter about these things coming up. An equation is like a scale. Uh-oh.
You do that every single day.
I know. I'm just... My level of common sense, not one of my gifts. Let's just put it that way. An equation is like a scale, okay? As long as I do the same thing to both sides of the scale stays balanced. A balanced scale is a picture of correctness, okay? Now, I want to get a letter on one side of the scale, doesn't matter which side, and I want to get a single number on the other side of the scale. And then I know the weight, because they're balanced, or the value of the letter. So, in order to get this n by itself, the first thing I'm going to do is add 5 to both sides. Die. 2n equals, what's 9 plus 5? 14. And then I'm going to divide by 2, because it's being multiplied by 2. I divide by 2. Die. Look, on this side of the scale, the only thing left is 1. And on this side of the scale, I did 14 divided by 2, which is 7. My answer is 7. Okay? So we'll do a few more of those before the end of class, and that's the only new thing we're going to learn today. All right, over here, product of 3 times 10 to the 10th, 7 times 10 to the 4th. Fire away.
Maybe 2.1 times 10 to the power of 14.
Power of?
14.
15. Why 15, not 14?
Because if we need a decimal before.
Yeah, very good. If I multiply it out first, I get 21 times 10 to the 14. That's the original step. But then I've got to move this decimal and make it 2.1. And then I've got to multiply by 10 there. So altogether, I get 2.1 times 10 to the 15. Okay? All right, so you're halfway to being perfect on that. If we clean the rest of it up before the test, you're going to get it right. And I would call that one of, not the hardest question on the test, but one of the more difficult questions on the test. So if you can do that, you're in good shape. Huge University, 2.5 times 10 to the 4 students. The school budget's 25 times 10 to the $8 for staff. Third day of doing this. Per student. What operation does per mean, everybody?
Division.
Divide. Students have to go in the bottom. The students is 2.5 times 10 to the 4th. And then, in the numerator, it says 25 times 10 to the 8th. So I divide and I get 10 times 10 to the 4th. Right? All done?
No.
No, why?
You divide by 10.
That's right. I got to divide by 10 here to move that decimal. Then I got to multiply back by 10 there. That's that trick again. 1 times 10 to the 5th. Okay? Any question on those guys? Okay. So, look, this is new stuff. There might be one question like this on the test. I'm really not sure. I'll find out tomorrow when I get them back from photocopy. And I think we're going to do one other day of review before we hit the test, the practice test. 2 will definitely be there, at least once, probably twice. 3 will definitely be there as well on the test. So there's at least 4 questions, I think, on the do it that'll be like test questions. And so that makes them worth about 16 points. So if you can do all of those, you're going to get 16 points. If you can't, you're done. You're not going to be able to do it. Okay, so lightning fast. So now what I want to do is talk to you guys for just a minute. I got to make this the really short version. There was a guy who went to school here years ago. His name was Jeffrey McDonald.
Jeffrey McDonald?
I feel like I read that.
Jeffrey McDonald. He's a murderer.
The murder?
He's a murderer.
You smiling.
I am not kidding.
Like,
Wait, what's his name again?
100 Jeffrey McDonald.
so you're right there. Like,
You can,
murder,
listen,
you have to come-
stop. You can look it up on the internet when you get home. Okay? He went to this school. He was probably in this classroom. Now, what he did was he was the All-American boy. He was the pitcher shortstop on the baseball team. He was the quarterback on the football team. He was the point guard on the basketball team. And his girlfriend was the head cheerleader. Adorable as a button.
Oh.
Her name was Colette. And they lived like down by Roe, or at least one of them did. I don't know.
Oh,
I
yeah,
live
yeah.
right by.
Down there. So what happens is, Jeffrey McDonald graduates from here, from Patrick. At the time, this was the high school. That's how long ago it was. It was in like 1907. He graduated in like 66, 65, when I was born.
Most people do.
Quickly, because I really want to get
You
through
live
this.
on Ketchum Street, because I heard about a murder on Row.
Well, I don't know, to tell you the truth. But what I know is that he graduated from here, and then he went to college, and he did so well in college, he became a medical doctor. And this was near the end of the Vietnam War, right around 1969, 1970. And he enlisted with the Army to become a Green Beret, which is almost like a Navy SEAL. It's very similar, special ops kind of guy. But he was a doctor for special ops kind of guy. And he knew all of these secret things. So he lived on Fort Bragg, North Carolina with his wife, and he had two beautiful daughters, like 2 and 4 years old. And one night they found his beautiful young children stabbed to death, like 30 times each. And his wife bludgeoned and stabbed to death. And he claimed that it was all the work of a bunch of drug-crazed hippies that broke into his house and beat him up in the living room. He said they broke into his house. He said they beat him up in the living room. He was asleep. They woke him up. They beat him up. And then they went in and slaughtered his family, and then he called the cops. So at first they thought his story might be true, but then he went on TV, and he was on, like, back then, you know how like nowadays they have Letterman and Leno and Oprah and Ellen. Well, back then they had shows like that with different stars, and he went on all those shows. And his father-in-law, now the first time he went to get tried, his father-in-law stuck up for him and said he would never do this. The father of the girl that got murdered, he said, I've known this guy since he's 4 years old. This is the nicest guy in the world. He would never do this. And then the father-in-law, after the trial got over and they acquitted him for being innocent, the father-in-law was sitting around the house and he would watch him on TV. And every time the story would change a little bit. So the father-in-law was like, I don't know if he did it or not. I don't know. So the father-in-law went down to North Carolina. He walks into the living room, and he's so frustrated. I mean, here's the house. You know, they got the yellow tape up. Here's the house where his family has been butchered and killed. He doesn't know if there really was a fight or not. And remember, he said that in the living room, these drug-crazed hippies broke in. This is a Green Beret. This is a man who was trained to kill with his bare hands, like a Navy SEAL, right? So average people don't go up to this guy and beat him up. So he says there was, in his words, a brawl in my living room. And the father-in-law is walking around the living room, trying to say, oh my God, did he do it? Did he not do it? And in a fit of anger, the father-in-law stands up and he stomps his foot on the ground. And when he stomped his foot, the little girl, the 2-year-old, it was her birthday. And there was all these birthday cards laid out, and they all toppled over. And the father-in-law said, the liar. He said, how in the world do you have a brawl? One of the guys he said was about 6'6", 280 pounds. How do you have a brawl with a Green Beret and a 6'6" guy, and there were 2 other guys in the living room, and they don't knock the cards over, but I stomp my foot, and I do knock the cards over. So then the father-in-law went and he tried to recreate the scene of the crime, and he tried to work backwards with the scene of the crime. And this time, instead of the military trying him, the civilian courts tried him, and they found him guilty, and he's been in jail ever since. And that's true. As far as I know, he is alive. Now, what I want to bring out to you is that what ultimately convicted this man, what ultimately convicted this man was the process of working backwards. That's what like these CSI shows and stuff do. They go to the scene of the crime and they work backwards and they try to fill it in. Well, that's what you do with an equation. You work backwards. Everybody get to this question on your paper. Oh, by the way, you want to know what's really, really freaky? You know who lives in the wife's house now? The Funicello family. Because I told the story, and the older Funicello girl looked up at me and she said, Mr. Lindquist, you want to know what's really freaky? I said, what? She goes, I live in Colette's bedroom.
Wait,
Allie Funicello's oldest sister lives, that's the house of the girl that was murdered.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Really?
Now, she was killed in North Carolina. It wasn't in that house. She was in North Carolina when she got killed, but that's her old house. What's that?
Her house all the time.
Ask her parents, they know all about it. So I am not lying, and you go ask her parents, they will tell you the truth. Okay. All right. Hey. Oh. All right, we got to work this out tomorrow. We'll pick up and do a couple things tomorrow.
We have to do homework, right?
Yeah, you got to do the homework. There's only like 3 new questions on the thing. Most of it's review. I will clean this up and finish this up tomorrow, and then we'll do some more work in class.